Okay, so part two of shopping for politics is what are the constituent pieces of a good politics and how do we choose it? So if I want to go out, like buy a car, like I have a little checklist, needs to have an engine, a steering wheel, some tires, some seats, whatever. Same thing with the politics. We need a basis of selection. We need a little checklist. And so this is my proposed checklist. And like I said before, this could be completely wrong headed. Um, and some people might come back and just tell me why all this stuff is garbage. But I think it's important to kind of put forth a proposal and then discuss it, uh, improve it, even scratch it and put something else in place. It doesn't really matter. But this is just for the sake of starting that conversation. Um, so, and like one thing to clarify is that like I don't know anything honestly about politics. Like I haven't read any. Like I don't have a poli sci degree. I haven't read any of this shit. I read a few articles. Like I haven't been really part of this world for a long time. So a lot of the stuff might have already been discussed before. Um, and I'm just kind of rehashing it. I don't know. But whatever. So, what are the criteria for a good politics? Um, Number one is you have to know where you're going. If we want to get a bunch of people together and achieve something, everybody needs to know what you're trying to accomplish. And so that goal has to be like has to have a few qualities. It has to be simple so that everybody can agree on it. It can't be too complex. It can't have too many contradictions. All these things are generally bad. The other thing that it needs to be resonant with people. Like people hear this goal, it's like, yes, I want to do this. This has to be like the goal has to be motivating for as many people as possible, and then the goal has to be correct. You know, when you like achieve it, you're like, aha, we got to where we want to get to. So I'll explain what that means a little bit. So I'm an engineer, so I'm gonna use like some technical metaphors that is how I think about stuff, and I'm gonna try to explain them a little bit. And maybe this is like entertaining and educational, and I'm gonna try to be as clear as possible. So, to me, like picking a goal in something like this is similar to a field of kind of computer science and engineering, this area called optimization algorithms. It's a way for basically a computer to solve problems on their own. Um, so one area like that I find cool is this area called evolutionary algorithms, where like the computer kind of churns on a problem over and over by kind of trying different combinations and then trying to get closer and closer to the answer. For this process to work, what you need to feed the computer, what you need to feed the optimization algorithm is something called a fitness function, a way for it to measure whether you're getting closer or further away from the solution. Without that, on every iteration, every step that it takes, it doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know whether it's closer to an answer or not. So you have to give it a fitness function. But not all fitness functions are created equal. Some fitness functions suck, and some fitness functions are cool. So if we want to like talk about a fitness function, the first thing it has to be is it has to be clear in such a way that if you meet its criteria, you're like, aha, this is actually what I wanted. So by way of example, in terms of like political objectives, if, for example, you tell the optimization algorithm, your computer algorithm that's searching for a solution, you say, fitness function is racial equity. Okay, go out and search the universe, the solution space, which is how it's referred to. Search the solution space for a set of conditions where racial equity can be has been accomplished. And it goes out, your algorithm searches the solution space, tries this, tries that. Do I have, and like, let's say it uses the black-white wealth disparity as its metric. And it's like, okay, am I closer? Did it shrink? Did it shrink? Did it shrink? Yes, 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 yes. And it moves forward and it finds an answer. And then it says, hey, I have an answer. And then you go look at the answer. And it's like, oh, what the optimization algorithm did is it made everybody poor. Okay? Black people, white people, Latinos, Asians, whatever. So because the fitness function that you gave it, it managed to meet the definition of it, okay, technically. It reduced the black-white racial wealth gap, achieved equity, but it did it by immiserating everybody, crushed everybody in society, and then maybe like installed 100 people up top that are super diverse and gave them all the money. Okay, so that was a bad fitness function. You have to choose a clear and correct fitness function that can't be ambiguous, that can't come up with a solve that meets the technical requirements, but not be what you want. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you need with a fitness function is simplicity. So like one fitness function that you can provide could have like a bunch of different variables in it. I want the fitness function to find the greenest thing, the smoothest thing, the biggest thing in the world. So the algorithm goes out and kind of like tries to optimize for all these variables. And what happens in a multivariate optimization or fitness function is that the resources and time that that are added the moment you start putting multiple variables, some of them might be a bit contradictory in certain instances, expands the scope or the difficulty of the search problem exponentially and increases the likelihood of you falling into what are called local minima, kind of like bad solutions that you can't get out of because every step you take kind of diminishes the optimization along one of these variables. Like if you have a multivariate fitness function, the number of these little traps, these local minima, expand beyond belief. So in general, that's not a good thing to do. As long as you can find, like if one of these variables is superfluous or largely superfluous. So let's say variable A does a bunch of stuff for you, like it gets you most of what you want. Variable B is covered mostly by A, but maybe it gives you a little bit more, like it's a little bit more specific to what you want, but most variable A covers it. The cost of adding variable B into the fitness function is so huge in terms of how hard the problem becomes. So you have to always say is like, how much am I getting for adding another variable that's mostly covered by the first one? And that's sort of the problem of these fitness functions and optimization algorithms as they relate to specifying an objective or a goal for a political project. I think you have exactly the same set of problems when you want to define a political objective. You honestly want to make it as specific as possible, as clear as possible, so you can't like get to a bad solution. And that's how you improve your chances of winning, which is critical because the stakes are so high. So clear goal. Got it. Second piece is what I call sufficient diagnostic power. Okay? So you have to have an ideology in your head that everybody that's part of your political effort shares. And that gives you a diagnostic lens, a way of looking at the world that helps you understand what you're seeing so you can act politically there. So, like to by way of example, if if we want to use like a medical metaphor, you want a scanner that detects tumors in the body. So that is your diagnostic lens. That's the metaphor we're going to use here. And your scanner needs to figure out what are the tumors and what are not the tumors in your body. In the same way, your politics, your political ideology needs to tell you who your friends are and who your enemies are. What institutions and organizations are helping you and which ones are harming you, and what way of thinking or practices are good or bad. It's just that making that distinction, good versus bad. So, in medical terms, the way that they describe how good a diagnostic tool is they use two terms. One is called sensitivity and the other one's called specificity. And what that roughly means, like sensitivity is I scan your body. Can I identify all the tumors? Am I missing any tumors that are there and not flagging them? So a diagnostic device with high sensitivity doesn't miss any tumors. It picks them all up. Specificity is how many non-tumors am I flagging as tumors? Okay? Something with low specificity is like lighting up all kinds of healthy tissue and saying, this is a tumor, this is a tumor, this is a tumor. This is garbage. You don't want that because then when you operate, you just like open up areas like, oh, there's no tumor here. You sort of fucked over the patient. In the same way, our politics has to have a good diagnostic lens that makes solid friend-enemy distinctions and doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Because again, we don't have a lot of margin for error. So if I have a diagnostic lens that tells me that my friends and enemies are determined by whether they look like me or not, okay, then that I would propose is a diagnostic tool with low sensitivity and low specificity, okay? Because it's really easy to make errors this way. If I look at somebody and just say, okay, is this guy on my side or is this gal on my side? And I just say, okay, here's what I look like in the mirror. Here's what they look like. Are we most similar? Yes, okay, he's a friend. Then that's just ripe for exploitation. And so you hear the phrase, the cynical misuse of identity politics. What that's describing, honestly, is that you have a diagnostic tool with low sensitivity and specificity, and therefore it's easy to fool. It's easy. And this is something that you have to contend with your diagnostic model. You have to ask yourself the question, is it good or bad? And if not, is it worth keeping? So that's it for part 2. I'm going to keep talking about like the diagnostic model in the next part.